In India, we always start proceedings with a beautiful Sanskrit chant, which begins with the words Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which literally means the whole world is one family. So, on that note, I welcome you all, no matter where you're joining from, whichever part of the world, no matter what your heritage. But I'd also love to acknowledge the indigenous people of this land, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, on whose lands we here in Australia get to live and breathe and play. And I'm joining you from the Gumbengi lands. They're very proud people and very sharing people. And I've been lucky to hang out with a few of the elders. So let's acknowledge also the elders past, present, and those emerging, the future ones that we have the privilege of working with day in, day out, some of whom you'll get to meet through the duration of this hour or an hour and a half. Let's see how long we go for. But thank you all for joining. It's a real pleasure to be your host. It's my first time hosting, so let's see how we go. And what really thrills me about the idea of launching, oh, by the way, if you don't know me, I'm Parul PJ. I head our education portfolio. Yeah, I've come from a background of disadvantage, but had great role models and mentors in my life that helped steer my ship onto safer waters. And yeah, here I am today. Very privileged, very fortunate to do the work I get to do. So yeah, I was telling you that what excites me about the university idea is we believe everyone has the potential to create change in the world, no matter where you come from. You have the fire within you to really start shifting things. And some might argue, hey, we're too small. I, as an individual, cannot create change on a system-wide scale or on a big scale. But yeah, we're trying to move that dial on apathy, saying, actually, no matter who you are, as an individual, you can create change. One of my mentors always, who I look up to as a mentor, the Dalai Lama, says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. On that note, we'll cut through to a quick video that explains why we're doing what we're doing with Imagination Uni, and I'll see you on the other side with a power-packed panel of humans.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
A social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
We see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
Teachers, executives, citizens.
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to Imagination University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.
Yeah, it's been quite an imagination journey to bring this idea from a thought in our heads, which existed 4 months ago, into the world of reality. And I find it fascinating how ideas are birthed into reality. Well, we have 3 amazing humans joining us for our first panel. I'd love to start with you, Jade. I was particularly inspired by your story. Do you want to tell us who you are, how you came to AIM, and what you plan to do in 2021 with us? Over to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade Billy Jamison. I'm 19 years old. I'm a Bundjalung and Gundungurra woman currently living on Dharawal land. And also, I'm a university student. I'm about to progress into my third year, providing I've passed everything. But my affiliation with AIM actually started when I was in high school. So AIM had a lot to do with me connecting with my Aboriginality. I constantly found myself at a crossroads. I grew up very, very privileged with my mother, who is not Aboriginal. And I found that I was constantly at a twofold. I grew up in privilege, and yet I distanced myself away from my Aboriginal roots, which, unbeknownst to me, was riddled with disadvantage. And it was only when I got told, Jade, if you graduate school, you are the 7th Aboriginal person to complete high school. My school had been open since the 70s. I was the 7th. I graduated in 2018. It was then that I had that eureka moment where I thought, okay, this is the bigger scheme of things. I might be only the 7th person to graduate, but this could be a whole transverse thing if I just get my stuff together and I really knuckle down on wanting to create change and wanting to opt to help people to actually close the gap. Every single time one Aboriginal person looks at themselves and says, I can do this, I have hope that I can do this, that's already making such a change. So I wanted to come here and actually provide that moment for future prospects so that they can look at themselves and see that they are worth having the hope. They are worth imagining a world in which they are worthy, they are capable of graduating, of doing all these things that might have just been limited to a lower level.
Yeah, thanks, Jade. Like, you are one of the reasons why we exist. Like, you inspire me day in, day out. Hearing stories like yours of someone who's been a mentee in the program, who's gone through the program, broken through stereotypes. You're the 7th person, but now you want to make sure there's hundreds more rising after you, and you want to continue that cycle. That for me is really profound to watch. So thanks for doing what you're doing. And I'll bring James into the conversation now. Hey, James, like, I know you work with Bloomberg, you're the MD, and I really like Bloomberg's ethos of giving back. I think there was 67% of profits returned back to philanthropy. So tell us who you are, what you do, and why you're here today with us.
Yeah, sure. I actually have a funny story about this. We're actually filming some little videos with our kids to play at one of our future town halls. And the ask of our events team was, ask your kids on your mobile phone what your daddy does for work, right, or your mum, or whoever it was. So I went up to my daughter and sat her down. And I said, okay, I'm going to film you, and I want to ask you what you do for work. And I said, okay, here we go. And I pressed record. I said, what does Daddy do for work, Miller? And she turned around and she said, Daddy looks after the people. And it was a really funny thing. I mean, that kind of leads into what I do here. My role as the MD for Bloomberg in Australia is very much to look after our people. It's to make sure that our people have a wonderful career, have great business opportunities, opportunities to grow, opportunities to give back, and impact our communities with which we work in. So my sort of background, PJ, I'm not sure if we sort of covered this when we last spoke, but I also came from a sort of probably a not so privileged upbringing. My family fundamentally come from a broken family. My dad left when I was 4, and my mum was a single mum for most of my life, and certainly a mentor to me. She was, but worked 3 jobs to put me through school and eventually university and things like that. So I've been very lucky to step into businesses like Bloomberg and my previous employer, State Street, to have some wonderful opportunities.
Yeah, I never knew about that, James. I know we spoke briefly about your story, but thanks for opening up and sharing your story more broadly. I remember last time we spoke, we were hanging out with all Bloomberg employees globally, and you were hosting us, me and Rianne, and we had a ball of a time. It was so much fun. And
it was good.
Yeah.
It was great.
Thanks for joining us. I'll pull Jessica into the conversation. Jessica, tell us who you are. I know you're an educator. You've been around for a while. And I think you're both based, Jessica and Jade, in Darawal country in Wollongong, if I'm not wrong. But over to you, Jess.
Yeah, so I'm based in Darawal country as well. I'm an educator in preschool. And so I started with AIM when I was in university. I'm 26 years old now. I had to think about that. But I started as a mentor when I graduated. I wanted to learn how I could do more within my job to involve it with the children, because it is a major part of our education for the young children, to ensure that they're involved in learning about the cultures that are in the service and also here on our land that we live in. And so I joined AIM again with the ambassador program this year as well.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, Jessica. That's really why we created the idea of Imagination University, is to have someone like you who's a teacher, an educator, in the same group as Jade, who's going to organize change on a university campus, along with James, who'll bring the executive stream to life. And together we can have a shot, possibly, at shifting the system, like whether it's education, whether it's world of employment, society at large. So thanks for that. Jade, tell me, what does imagination mean to you? I know you're an imaginative person, and I think a lot of imagination in your mind if you're trying to break through stereotypes. And I know you flip the script quite often. So what does imagination mean to you?
So imagination to me is one of those things that you can't buy, but it makes you richer. It gives you perspective. It is not bound by social norms. It's not bound by constructs. It's not bound by metrics in which we measure knowledge. It is solely intrinsic and solely based on what you think you are capable of. And I feel like changing that narrative to ensure that everyone knows that they are capable of literally anything that they want to do is imagination.
Yeah, that's profound. And you raise a very interesting point. Like, imagination doesn't need any money. And like, we've had a funny discussion about money and the role of money in shifting things. Like, I think there's a little bit of money involved, but the bigger picture of what we're trying to do always relies on like human potential, trust, imagination, things that never can be monetized. James, do you find in your work within the executive boardroom, like imagination has a room to play? I know you're joining us with the executive stream, which hopefully should see a young Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander person like Jade once she graduates, like Rianne, who was supposed to be my co-host but is not here today just because she's sick. We miss you, Rhi. And just see them through after uni, have a pathway to become, say, the co-MD of Bloomberg, like go straight to the leadership level. And for me, that's a fascinating idea. What do you think? Does imagination even play a role in the workplace?
Yeah, it does. But I will say that it's most of the imagination doesn't happen in the boardroom. You know, it doesn't happen in these confined spaces in a room where you go in and say, we're going to have a really imaginative session. You know, I think, you know, when I was a kid, I used to love climbing trees and making cubby houses and, you know, and being imaginative with what was around me. And I think, you know, again, having kids now, I can see when they're at their best when they're using their imagination. They're running around and not looking at a TV, not looking at a screen, not being in a room, but you know, stimulated by different things in their environment. And, you know, when you take that into the workplace, it's the same thing. You know, most of my best ideas, and I guarantee you most of my staff's best ideas have come when they're on the bus on the way to work and they're sitting there daydreaming, relaxing, and all of a sudden an amazing idea pops into their head. It doesn't happen when you're sitting at a desk like this and you've got computers and numbers and all this crazy stuff happening in front of you. You know, you know, I think it comes a little more naturally. I think in our position, one of our core values at Bloomberg is innovation. Right, it's innovation, collaboration, do the right thing, and look after your customers. And that innovation one, I think, probably most closely connects with imagination, because I think innovation comes from ideas that are outside of the core, outside of the norm. So from my perspective, yes, it plays a massive role. And look, I think to your second question, yeah, we are having some Indigenous interns join us in January. Which is going to be fantastic, and hopefully once they're completed their education, we'll certainly be looking to hire them into Bloomberg and grow their careers. You know, one thing that I just want to make a point of here is that yes, we're a big big US company, but we operate here in Australia. And what does that mean? That means we've got a responsibility to the Australian people. And it means we've got a responsibility to impact and help the communities with which we work in, right? That is part of our responsibility as operating here. So I think, it's critical to mention that, PJ.
I totally agree with you, James. It's so important, like where you are based in your place, to have a local impact and then look globally. Like I want people to dream. I want people to look at all of us as one people, as one race dwelling on the planet. I know there's so many races, but at the heart of it, we're all humans. We're all striving for something better, something higher. So yeah, I really find the idea of like a co-executive, a co-CEO fascinating. And that sort of sidesteps, I still think there should be internship programs for Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people here. But to have someone like a young person who's from a diverse background straight into the boardroom, and I guarantee you, James, it will spark some imagination in the boring, closed boardroom. And that's the idea. We don't want to have boardrooms to be just, very white and male and whatever else the boardroom composition is. We had a fascinating aim.
Don't want a whole bunch of people looking like me, PJ.
Hey, we need people like you to care about the world. So that's really important, James. Jessica, do you find like we lose our imagination as we're growing up? Is it suppressed? Does the education system support it? What is your view? What are you seeing?
Well, I think that in my end of the education, it's very broad, and you let the children use their imagination a lot more. As we progress through like the primary and high school, it kind of like you're told to do things a certain way. You're given a curriculum to follow, and you're given, like, say for art, you've been shown what an artwork should look like and how you should have it, and you're not given that flexibility to change it to how you think it should be. So you're not really using your imagination, but it's still there in the back of your mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I remember Jack telling me once, Jack's our founder and currently head of design, and he said, everyone's an artist. It's just people do things differently. So long as you can write something, so long as you can paint something, you're an artist. And all of us are that. Like we just think, oh, artists are some people that are on pedestals or that have to make these huge bodies of art. And I really like that sort of switch going off in my mind. Oh, true. Everyone is an artist. But yeah, let's try and wrap this panel up. I have one other question for all of you. Let's start with you, Jessica. Who is a mentor in your life? Like, tell us one mentor and what they've given you as a gift that you still.
So it's a very obvious one. So my main mentor is my mum. Which she's given me life, and she's given me an education on what she grew up with and how it's changed to what I have, and the privilege of being able to go to a private school and get support through my education that wasn't offered to her or my other family members. So that's one of my big mentors.
Yeah, hooray to moms. Moms are amazing. I can second, third, fourth that. Jade, what about you?
I believe everyone in my life has had some sort of impact on me. But I often draw upon the strength of my ancestors and actually appreciate their strength that has gotten me to here. I'm a very spiritual person, and I think I'm so lucky to have the ancestors that I did and the strength and the grit that they manifested, that I'm capable to sit here today and say that I'm a proud Aboriginal woman in university wanting to help start up the Imagination University. So whilst that may not be like a mentor per se, they're not earthside, but I draw upon their strength quite frequently to really realize how lucky I am to be here in this position.
Yeah, that is a powerful thing to be able to do, Jade. So please keep doing that. That's amazing. And yeah, you are almost a mentor to me. When I see people like you rising up, it gives me hope. So thanks for that. James.
Yeah, I mean, my mum obviously, but I won't talk about her too much, but certainly my godfather, who was my Uncle Joe, he was a massive and still is a massive mentor for me, both personally and professionally. I think what stands out in him is he never told me what to do. He always kind of guided me in a direction and then let me make my own decisions, which I think drives accountability, drives responsibility, and amazing, yeah, an absolutely amazing mentor.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks all for sharing. I could speak to you for days, but we only have the privilege of such short time together. We're going to throw to one final video, or one other video, not final. We'll have a few more videos coming up, but this is a video we made when we went global 4 years ago, or 5 years ago now. I can't even remember, but it's made by this French Oscar-winning filmmaker, and it's a beautiful 2-minute animation that tells us why AIM exists. So let's watch that, and we'll meet some other good humans on the other side of this panel. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, James. Thank you, Jess. See you soon. Yeah, I think one of the most imaginative things I've ever not seen personally in my life, but that I've had the opportunity of reading about or watching about, has been the launch of the Voyager mission into space. And I was fascinated how, as humans, as a race, we can say, let's just collect the best compilation of our music, our sounds, our images, and let's blast it into space in the hope that someday some species finds it somewhere. But it's still floating in extraterrestrial space. It's so beautiful. It just gives me this soft, fuzzy feeling when I think about that. But welcome everyone to the second panel. And we have a very interesting panel of humans joining us. I think there's someone from Uzbekistan and someone from the US. And we have a strong leader here from Australia, Pip. I'll start with you, Pip. Do you want to tell us briefly who you are, what you do? I personally had the chance of watching you from the sidelines and be inspired by what you do, but tell us, our friends watching.
Hi, and apologies. I know I was on the last panel, so I'm panel crashing. Is that a thing? Can you do that in the world of Zoom?
Yes, you can do it, Pip. You've done it.
I'm excited because actually this panel looks amazing. There's some incredible people on here. So thank you for letting me join you. Better late than never, and my sincere apologies. The CEO for Salesforce for Australia, New Zealand and ASEAN, and a lifelong learner, I would like to say, and somebody who's really passionate about creativity, learner's mindset, growth mindset, and using those to help deliver on the purpose and live our values and make a really positive contribution back to the society and the people that are around us.
Yeah, that's amazing, Pip. And I've really enjoyed watching Salesforce do the things that you guys have been able to pull off in the last few years. I've spoken directly to the Windforce panel based in the US. We've had lots of connections.
They're amazing.
Yeah, Salesforce are actually helping us build the technology for Imagination Uni. So it's great to have you join us, Pip. I'm going to bring Danae into the conversation. Danae, you work with a fascinating place and in a fascinating area of victim services and protection. Tell us what you do and why you do what you do, and what are you doing with Imagination Uni? Over to you.
Sure. So I'm representing Preparedness Without Paranoia as their chair of the advisory board. I am also the chief program officer at the National Center for Victims of Crime. Historically, I've been involved with crime victims and working in the crime victims field for over the last 20 years or so. What Preparedness Without Paranoia, we call it PWP for short because it can kind of be a tongue twister. We really want to empower parents and children in being able to take their safety and security into their own hands and be prepared for any type of unforeseen event that might, come from an ordinary day that turns extraordinary. So it might be something from a mass casualty event to something that might even happen in the home or natural disaster. So we provide educational materials through our educational books of Lucky the Preparedness Dog, which are child developmentally appropriate books that teach children how to be prepared. And right now we're dealing with the pandemic, so teaching them how to stay prepared and stay safe and healthy through the pandemic. And I got involved with the Imagination University. Actually, it was kind of a serendipitous experience through Brendan Newton. He had reached out to me for something completely unrelated, and we just made the connection, and I was able to see the parallels between our two agencies of really trying to be world changers in and impacting the lives of families and children, especially those who are underprivileged and don't necessarily have the resources that others have access to.
Yeah, that's critical work that you guys are doing in the US. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to spend an hour with you and hear the backstory and all the amazing connections and the amazing work that you've been able to do. So keep up the great work, Danae. I'm going to pull Kobil. Have I got your name right? Please correct me if I've got it wrong, but I understand that you're from Uzbekistan, but you're studying at Wollongong and you want to do some cool things with us. You've been a mentor, maybe. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kobil. As he said, I'm from Uzbekistan and I'm studying at UW, and my major is business. And then I've been mentoring my friends, so it's pretty much an informal mentoring stuff. I was just helping my close friends with their studies, because I thought that they need really help with their studies because they were failing all the stuff. So I just gave my hand for them, and then and then now I just want to make it more efficiently, and then help some other students as well. So that's why I'm here for.
That's cool, Kobil. And I think it should become almost normal for humans. It shouldn't be a noble thing that you do something and pull up someone behind you or lift other people along with you. And the way I see leadership, I want to speak a little bit to leadership because we have 3 diverse leaders here, 1 in the making and 2 who are quite established. How do we bring other people with us on the leadership journey? What does it mean to be a leader, and what role does imagination play there? Pip, do you want to give us your thoughts? How do we build the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, I have to say I'm actually inspired. I spent some time doing reverse mentoring, And that's where I reach out to people who are much younger than me, and I hit 50 next year. So there's a large population of people younger than me, thank goodness. And I love to spend time with them and get them to help me think about my creativity, my learner's mindset. And I have to say, I feel really good about our future. I mean, really genuinely very good about our future, because the level of awareness and consciousness and commitment to creating a better planet, a more equal and diverse environment, it feels so much more a priority to that generation than it did to my generation when I was those ages. So I'm actually really inspired by what is coming through in our world. So I take it as my job now to help learn from them and think about how I can change the systems right now to allow them to better impact that, to do the great work that they're going to do. And I try and figure out what I can do to help make a more inclusive work environment. What is it going to take for me to change at Salesforce so that when they get in there, you know, they have equal opportunity, equal access, equal rewards, and really, really listening to that generation, that younger generation, I think is just fantastically inspirational. So I think very much about learning from them and using the privilege of the position that I am in, where I'm the person who can change the system to help them do the best work, and then, you know, role modeling that and bringing that in. So it's quite unique, I think, in this generation that is coming through, and the passion they have for driving real change, and the problems they have to solve are not problems we've had before. So the power of imagination and creativity is going to be more important than ever, because if we knew how to solve those problems, we would do it. You know, there isn't a playbook. We don't have the answers. We need the creativity and the learner's mindset to help doing that. And I'm seeing that more than ever, candidly.
Yeah, there's so much juice in what you just said, Pepla. There's so many different strands of like mentoring being a two-way street, and it necessarily continues to give back. And that's the beauty of mentoring. And yeah, we've partnered with, to your point, we've partnered also with Hello World, which is an entity linked to Eric Schmidt, who we all know as Google's ex-CEO. But yeah, he's on the hunt for the next generation of leaders. And he says we're in a leadership crisis, and it's going to be the next generation that's going to solve the problem. So what you're saying is spot on. And I'll throw you on the spot as well, Pip, before we bring Danae in. But one of the things that we do at AIM is allow for executive level mentoring to occur between our senior exec staff and other staff. So I'd love for you to mentor one of our senior staff potentially at some stage. And maybe it's someone like a strong Aboriginal leader. I'm thinking Taryn, our GM, but we'll work that offline. But
I would love to. I currently, as I jointly mentor a fantastic Aboriginal woman who's working at CBA, and I spent a lot of time with her. I saw her last night, actually, and she has taught me a lot. We're doing our reconciliation action plan at Salesforce, and I've been able to talk to Jade about that. So I'm learning from her too, although it's, you know, originally I was mentoring her. It's definitely a symbiotic relationship, and we're both benefiting from it. So I would love to do that there as well.
Brilliant. Let me connect you offline to Taryn, and we can see what we can do together. And yeah, very excited also on your wrap journey. Hopefully we can make the artwork for wrap a hoodie potentially. We're exploring that with Ross offline. But Danae, tell me, what role does imagination play in your world? Like, how do we get people prepared for trauma, for difficult things, and not be paranoid? Do you use imagination? I know you bring Lucky the dog into different places, but tell us how you use imagination.
So, you know, it's really interesting. You know, we're trying to get to the point to where individual people's safety is just as rote in people's memory as putting on a seatbelt, so to speak. So teaching them about paying attention to their surroundings, and, you know, one of the ways that we're teaching that is specifically with children, because most of the things that we are doing right now are with younger children, but we are starting curriculum for older youth, but teaching them about, you know, their superpowers of, you know, super kindness, super, you know, super attentiveness, and listening with your eyes and hearing with, and seeing with your ears, So paying attention to the things that are happening around you, but only doing it in a different way. And I think that when you use your imagination in a way that you normally wouldn't do, then you can also kind of listen to your gut instinct a little bit better as well, because that's one of the things that even as adults, we don't really listen to our gut instinct. And so teaching children as well as adults to listen to your gut, and what does that mean? Like what exactly does a gut instinct mean and feel like? And trying to teach them those types of skills that are quite honestly hard, in the beginning, but after you learn them and after you identify them and can label them, then you're able to just kind of, it's rote memory. It's put in, into your skill set or into your toolbox, and you're able to do it and pull them out when needed.
Yeah, that's so cool, Dee. Like the work you guys do, I find it really inspiring. So yeah, I just love the idea of super kindness and super attentiveness and super hope. Like, yeah, these are superpowers, like absolutely. And let's train these superpowers in people. So keep that good work up. Kobil, tell us, what does imagination mean to you in your worlds?
It's just said that everyone has their own world, and then everyone does everything in their own, like how they want it and how they see it. So I mean, if we share it, like we can come up with it's always two heads better than one head. So if we always help each other and then share our ideas, so it would be like we can make the world always better place while sharing our imaginations or those stuff, and then the empowerment.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think the idea of making the world a fairer place, one of my mentors that I look up to all the time, Nelson Mandela, said, "It seems impossible until it is done." When we launched the idea of the university 4 months ago, I think, it was just a thought in our brains. And we were like, all right, we think we can build this. We think we can bring executives, school students, youth students, teachers, citizens, all under the same group, under the same umbrella, and say, hey, we're all capable of change. We've learned some things in the past 16 years and we can hand them to you. And then let's see what you can do. As school students, let's see what you can do. As uni students, whether you can organize change for 100 other people in your university, bring 100 kids out of inequity. For executives, we've said, can you set up a co-CEO or a co-MD or a co-directors model where there's a young person between the ages of 18 to 30 who comes from an Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander background here in Australia. In your case, D, he might or she might or they might come from the African American community or the Native American community. And how can we not put them in the equity office, but bring them straight to the boardroom, because boardrooms need to start looking as diverse as the worlds we live in. I think we're sort of running short on time, but this panel's been one of my favorite panels. I'll still continue on, and I'd love to hear in a sentence or two, let's try 6 words if you can go really brief, but I'll allow a sentence or two. Give us your parting wisdom. Think that the world is ending. Humanity as we know it is coming to an end, but you get to leave one message somewhere that someone may find, like the Voyager mission. So let's start with you, Dee.
Oh goodness. We've lost a genuine kindness for each other. So I would just keep it simple and just say, be kind to one another.
Yeah, that's cool. Kobil, do you want to go next, and we'll close with you, Pip?
Life, I would say life was too short, but I still enjoyed it.
That's cool. That's cool. I love this. Life's too short. I still enjoyed it. Pip?
Yeah, for me, it's purpose changes everything. When you have a purpose and you believe in that, that's why your comment, it seems impossible until it's done, because you believed in the purpose. Purpose changes everything. Find your purpose, live to it, and great things happen.
That's profound. Yeah, I think always remembering why we're doing what we're doing is what keeps us motivated to do the things that we're doing. Up next, we're going to throw to one of our resident professors of IMAGI-NATION University. This is Professor Lionel Korn, and he's going to speak to us about climate change. I think he's somewhere in a garden. Last I remembered, he was in a kitchen, but over to you, Lionel. Show us what you got.
Your diet can protect and sustain the planet. That's a fact. I know it's easier not to think about where your food comes from, but we've run out of time for that, Liberty, so think about it. What changes can you make to your diet to combat the detrimental effects of animal agriculture and overly intensive farming? When your grandchildren ask why you didn't do anything to save the planet, what are you going to say? I like the taste of bacon? It's not going to cut it. Delicious.
Yeah, climate change, what an interesting topic. Like, I don't know, everyone at the moment is speaking about it, as they should. One of our creatives said to me that we may be at the halfway mark. I think we've done since 2005 to 2040. I don't exactly remember the stat, but it was something like, if we continue doing what we're doing for the next 10 or 15 years, we would have created so much damage that we cannot turn back. So it's really critical to have these conversations. Hey, we have a power-packed panel of 5 humans joining us, I think. So let's get to it, or maybe 4. Let's start with you, Sandra. I thought you were in the previous one. I might have missed you, I didn't know, but tell us who you are, what you do. And I love the suit in the background. What's going on?
Oh, that's one of the suits for AIM, designed and done by Bratz, the artist.
Oh, cool.
I was lucky enough to win it in the Suits for Suits. Anyway, I'm Sandra. I'm an AIM mentor. I'm currently on Ku-ring-gai land, and even though I have been in technology for nearly 30 years, I have actually been a foster carer for 16. Now, the 16 years being a foster carer, I've had 17 young people. My eldest is 34 and my youngest is now 11. So that's a little bit about who I am. And that last panel was absolutely amazing. I could have sat here and picked their brain for hours.
Same, Sandra. I could have done it for ages, but I have to say, all right, let's move to the next one, because there's so many good humans banging at the door trying to get in. We also have Sibi on the line. Sibi, I think you do some really cool things. Last I heard, you guys make eyes for self-driving cars. Tell us about the work. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a startup called Baraha here in Sydney, and we invent and build laser scanners for driverless cars. So the driverless cars of the future, which will have no human drivers, will see the world in many ways, and one of the ways will be through lasers.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, when I first heard that, my brain just went, what? How do people do that? That's so cool. Like, I love that as a concept. Kaimina, I want to bring you into the conversation. I understand you're a strong leader within Broome, within the area that you live in. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
So I'm not actually in Broome at the moment, but that's where I'm from. And that's the place that I'm most passionate about returning to definitely try to provide some leadership there to help to empower and change some of the things that's going on in the communities at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm actually down south at the moment here in WA in Perth, and I'm working on a few things. I've ventured into self-employment, and I'm also at university, a mature age student. But life brings us on different roads and gives us different things, in the right times. But yes, that's a bit about me.
Yeah, life's a gnarly journey, so many adventures, so many misadventures, and you from it all, you grow from it all. So thanks for joining us. Georgina, I've sort of seen your name pop up a few times as a mentor of the year. I don't know, I've seen your name just appear in different spots. Tell us who you are and what are you doing here?
So I'm actually an AIM intern. I've been an intern for the couple of years. I started my AIM journey in 2018, and I mainly joined because what happened to me in high school. I got extremely sick when I was in year 9, and by year 12, I was going to school about 1 day a week. And all my teachers and even the principal would tell my parents, she's not going to graduate, she's not going to go to university, she's not even going to succeed in life. And well, today I've got my Bachelor in Biomedicine, and I'm working on my Bachelor of Nursing.
That's phenomenal. That makes me go, yes, that's it, Georgina. This is about breaking stereotypes. And we get sick, even with the kids we work with, how many times there's labels imposed and said, this is what you're capable of. If you come from a certain background, this is what you can do. And it's so heartwarming to watch people totally flip that script, tear open the box, and yeah, there you are. So thanks, Georgina, for doing the amazing work you're doing. And we also have Idona, a global citizen who does some really cool things and brings good vibes.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm Idona. I am very new to the AIM world. Funnily enough, I actually received an email from an IT technician apologizing for a mistaken email sent. And I didn't even realize that I was subscribed to AIM's email. So I check out the website, read through the PDF, 25 pages, and I'm just blown away by how amazing it sounds. And I'm kind of like, is this a scam or is this real? Or, you know, so I put an application in, and then yeah, and here I am now. So that's a bit about me.
I love those serendipitous connections, how they occur.
Yeah.
A technical
for
call
sure.
saying, hey, sorry, you did not get the job you applied.
Yeah.
Due to Imagination University, and now you're ready to lead change with us. That's phenomenal. That has to be one of the best stories. Sibi, tell me what role, like obviously in your world, imagination plays a big role. But I'm trying to pair in my mind. For Imagination University, we've got 6 key knowledge areas, which include imagination, mentoring, flipping the script, which is what some of the people have already spoken to, building bridges, organizing change, getting one person to be a multiplier for hundreds. And then the last one is a distinctive concept we've created called hoodie economics. So the cool hoodie Sandra's rocking, or the suit behind her, the artwork I'm rocking, all sort of comes from the kids we work with, and that becomes our currency of exchange to bring people into our world. So I want to hear, do you think like imagination and mentoring can go together, and what might be the result of this chemical combination of one and the two? Tell us, Sibi.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I guess, you know, we're a company that's trying to compete on the global stage here in Australia. And you have to ask yourself, why would we expect to be successful? And it's probably only through imagination. So me and my co-founder, we had an idea that was very different from everyone else. And that includes, you know, people that are coming out of Stanford and MIT. We had an idea that was completely different from what they were doing. And we built a team here, and we raised money here to start the company. And it's just based on imagination that could it be possible to make a globally leading technology out of Australia? And we are every day proving one day at a time that it is possible.
That's it. It's about proving moment to moment, day to day, that it is possible. And I think when AIM first went global 4 years ago, people said, nah, it can't be done. Like, you're an Australian entity, and then you work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids, which is still the heartbeat of the AIM movement. But what we thought was like, this is a template that connects people with power and people without. And on this bridge that we build our world of imagination on, heck, if kids in Africa can gain something out of it, if mentors in Africa, in America, in India, why not? And I don't know if it's a fact, but AIM might be the first Indigenous organization out of Australia to have gone global. Not sure. I've heard that in the past, but yeah, so it obviously takes leaps and bounds of imagination to get where we are today. And yeah, you guys and the work you do is super cool. Georgina, tell me what role mentoring plays in your world. Like, who are the mentors that have really helped you along your way, or you've helped them?
Well, I think I'd like to believe I helped some of the kids, like, but actually the kids have taught me a lot of stuff. Actually, originally I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, speciality in pediatrics, But after working with these kids, I actually considered going teaching or changing my speciality to Indigenous care, because working with these kids are beyond words. Like, their experiences that they tell me about actually brings me to tears half the time. But yeah, they've actually probably taught me more about myself than I probably helped them.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I experience it. I started AIM as a mentor, and I know exactly how that feels. And you learn more from the kids. I'm like, what am I even doing here? You're teaching. Thank you. Thank you. Sandra, your role as a mentor, what do you see in the world of mentoring?
I'd have to agree with everyone here. My biggest mentors are my young people, the ones I live with, the ones that are in my tutor squads. Every day I learn so much from them, and they give me such a rich life. I think that's why I've kind of shied away from my career in technology to move more towards therapeutic foster care. So by all means, that is the focus of my world at the moment.
Yeah, it's so important when we're shifting streams or when we're moving across different worlds. Like, I found mentors to be these huge ladders that open up worlds that did not exist before for me. So that's super cool. And Donna, tell us what mentoring means to you. Like, what do you use it? Is it useless? Is it a way for us to go into the past, or is it into the future? Over to you.
I definitely don't think that it's useless. I think mentorship in my own personal life has a very soft and special spot. I have been fortunate enough to have multiple people in my life kind of take on the role of mentor and still be in that role to this day. And I'm lucky enough to have multiple, because sometimes life happens, someone's busy, you know, and you might not be able to speak to a person, but you can always go to B or C or etc. You know, so I think it's really important in that sense. I've also been in the role of a mentor. I used to babysit children in my local cultural community quite a lot, and yeah, you know, you just, it's just great to be there and watch them grow, and then they come back to you and they say like, I remember when you did that thing, and it made me really happy, and all these beautiful words come out of them, and it makes life grand, I guess.
Definitely makes life grand. I agree. And yeah, mentors are phenomenal. And we think everyone should be a mentor, especially the educators of the 21st century, because yeah, there's these little beasts in our hands, and you can't be a teacher and say, hey, I know everything, I'm going to teach you something. It's more like, I'm going to sit side by side with you, and we can collectively try and make sense of the complex world around us. Kaimina, tell us what role mentors have played in your life. And while you're at it, if you want to give a shout to one or two of your mentors, go for it.
Yeah, you know, I think touching on what everybody's saying, I think mentorship in general is a two-way stream. It's both sides. Whoever you're with, who's playing a role, maybe on a leadership side of a mentor, or whether you're the one being mentored. We both teach each other something. We both gain something from each other. I've been very fortunate with my professional mentors, because they've come from prior managers that have become lifelong friends and mentors till this day. So I've been being very blessed with that on the professional side, and I'll shout out to a few. So Maggie McPhee, Minnie Mills, if they're watching this. Yeah, so I see mentors in my life, though, coming from so many different angles. Mentors have been my mentees. As everybody else has kind of touched on, mentors have been my elders, the elders that have been in my life. The wisdom gained from them I think is very significant, and one of the most important mentors anybody can have in their life. And I feel like, I've had mentors that have been somebody sleeping on the streets that I've had conversations with, that's inspired me in some way, that's taught me in some way, and that's provided me a drive that I've never had before. So mentorship, I think, is very important. I think that's the key to education in a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's so much the ability to keep learning as mentors. Like the rain can teach you something, the river can teach you something, Wi-Fi can teach you something if you're really open to learning in those moments. So that's so cool. I love the idea of learning lifelong. I can talk to you guys for the ages, but I do want to know what change are you wishing to create in 2021? Like very briefly, we'll run through and we'll hear from all of you in a sentence or two. If you get to paint the picture of 2021, if you're the boss of 2021, what does 2021 look like? Let's start with you, Sandra.
I think it's just to share that knowledge that I have, that with more people like you, we can change this world. And we have to start seeing every trial and negative situation as an opportunity to grow in our character and in our resilience. So if I can impart that to a few people, I'm done.
That's a great start to 2021. Kaimina, I'll come back to you now just to mix it up a bit. What does 2021 look like through your eyes?
Well, me personally, I think that we are literally in the middle of evolution right now. I think that the world is in a transformative state. The human race, Earth itself is in a transformative state. And so I think right now, 2021 is the time for creation. So I'm really excited about this journey with the university, IMAGI-NATION University, because it's going to give everybody a platform to create and imagine a future and create a future that's nothing like we have right now, particularly in regards to education. And I would like to, I'm really excited about a project that I want to work on through it next year as well to make some change in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about your project, but I know we'll sort of run out of time as we always do, but we'll hear your projects in the due course of next year. But that's a very beautiful picture of 2021, creation. Sibi, what are we creating in 2021?
Well, here at Baraha, we already have a fantastic team, but in 2021, I'm going to hire another 50 people to join the team here to push us even further and to really expand what we're doing. So I really expect in 2021, you're going to hear a lot of really exciting news about Baraha because of our success in self-driving vehicles.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I spoke to Reshmi, and we sort of bounced ideas around how a co-executive model could exist within Baraha, how we could have a young Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person here in Australia between the ages of 18 to 30, who might sort of get a fast-track leadership opportunity to join your board or executive team. But yeah, we're having that conversation offline. And I'd personally love if you were part of the exec stream within uni, but we can flesh that out.
Yeah, look, excited for someone to come and make an impact.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. Georgina, what does 2021 look in your eyes?
Well, I guess one of the things I want to do is, change the negative thoughts. You are not what someone else says, you are what you want to be. Something I've learned really well in biomed. Obviously, I'm not what the teachers at my school thought. I'm a lot smarter than what they thought. And I think that's what I really want to change next year, is because even still today you hear, I can't do this because this person said this. So I really want to change that.
And that's so critical. If we can flip that internal narrative somehow, and we've found imagination is the lever that we pull, and kids can somehow start breaking through the stereotypes. I feel really inspired by your story, Georgina. Like, I love when people can sort of rip through all boxes, limitations, identities forced upon them. So please keep using your voice for good. Edona, parting words of wisdom to our audience watching, and then we'll move to the next.
To sum up 2021, I would like to see it become an empathetic, socially inclusive, socially cohesive, and socially inclusive. Wasn't a mistake, I guess. World, environment, community, and in the process, become the person that I've always meant to be.
That's the greatest thing you can do, is to become the person you were meant to be, because everyone else is already taken. So well said, Edona. Lovely to hang out with you, Georgina, Sandra, Sibi, Kaimina. We'll throw to a quick video now of, I think we did this anthem a couple of years ago, a bunch of AIM kids getting together and telling us loud and clear that change is coming. Watch out for change. So let's throw to that video and we'll meet some other good humans on the other side. Thank you all.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard to live it, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will.
Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down my knees.
There's been times that I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will.
Yeah, every time I watch that video, I get goosebumps. The idea of change coming. Should change come? What is change like? One of the criticisms, or sometimes people tell us, hey, AIM has changed again. You've changed again. Isn't life always changing? Aren't we moving things around all the time? Isn't life evolving? So I'm really fascinated about the idea of like, what is change? Who creates change? Can anyone create it? But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to the idea of change. I'd love to hear from the panelists joining us today. Let's start with you, Kath. I know I've hung out with you a little bit, but would love to hear your story. What are you doing and why are you here with us today?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I would say if to define myself in a few words, a force for good in an interesting and complex world. First career in federal law enforcement, the intelligence community. Second career using all those skills to pay it forward, teaching kids about preparedness.
You are a force for good. I can agree to that, Kath, from what little I know of you already, just having spent an hour with you. So keep being that force for good. And there's a couple of other forces here. Tree, you've been around in our world a little bit since our expansion into the US, and so good to see you again, mate. Like, how are you going and what's happening in your world? Tell us your story for the audience watching. Oh, you're a mute tree, so we'll have to get you off mute and then we can hear.
Hey y'all.
Hey.
Okay, so in like 2018, I met Bryn, and I was really scared, y'all. I was scared. I was like, oh my goodness, Bryn is a killer. Like they talk about they want to take me to Australia. Wait a minute. But I got to know Bryn and everything went well, and I got to go to Australia and meet everyone. And it was so great. It was great. I never been to Australia. I never been outside of the country because I don't go outside like that. But I've traveled a lot, and when I went with them, it was different. So I decided to go because it was for a purpose outside of just vacationing and having fun. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta go. So I went, and everything that they said was everything that I believed in, and I got to see them, all of the things that I think about in my own mind that I'm trying to bring about in my own life, and that, I want to bring about to the children that are around me. Like, it was just great. It was great. So right now.
It was great having you with us, Tree. It was such a joy having you here and saying that you want to stand up, that you want to create change for those around you. So keep doing that. It's such an important thing to do. Emerald, I'd love to hear your story and how are you here today? What are you doing in our worlds and who are you?
Hi, my name is Emerald Mills. Who am I? That's a loaded question. But I live in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. I have worked probably for the past 20 years in public health, so doing work around public health. And I recently founded, like the last 2.5 years, founded my own organization called Diverse Dining, which is designed to bring different cultures of people together over food. And so I don't really know how I was found and how I connected with this organization. Someone reached out to me in my inbox on LinkedIn, and we've been having a series of conversation. I always said that if I wanted to go back to work, like if my business closed down or if I stopped doing my business, this would be the kind of place and world that I would want to be in and connected to, just all of the amazing things that I've been able to learn about this organization so far. So I'm just here as a just as a member, I guess, on the outside, learning what I can about the work that and all the great things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love people sort of standing out and looking in, and we'll suck you in sooner or later, Emerald. It's just a fascinating world. And the idea we've built, the reason we've built IMAGI-NATION University is to bring people like you, even when you're working in different workplaces, even when you're doing different things, connecting school students, uni students, teachers, executives, citizens, all under the one umbrella, and saying, hey, we'll connect you, we'll give you the tools, and then let's see what change you can create in the world. Let's all get out and start being change makers. And one of those change makers that's just joined us is Caitlin. I gather you're a uni student that wants to organize change on your university campus. Tell us, Caitlin, who you are and what are you doing here with us today?
So hello, everyone. My name's Caitlin. So I'm in Sydney and I am a uni student. But yeah, who am I? Who am I? I study social work and arts. So I'm going into my third year next year. And I major in Indigenous studies and minor in politics. And for the past 5 or 6 years, my main passion is basically Indigenous young kids and excellence, and finding what ways we can create change with youth. So I did Aboriginal studies in year 11 and 12 on a whim, and yeah, found my passion there, decided to continue it on with uni. And yeah, AIM's just something I can do, like to actually get started and create some change while I'm at uni as well. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's so cool. And again, coming back to the idea of change, because you say you want to lead change, and the kids were singing beautifully just before we jumped into this panel that a change is going to come. tell me in all of your words, let's go one by one. Let's start with, and we might have another person joining us just now. So let's have Taylor introduce herself and tell us who you are, Taylor, and what change you wish to see in the world next year. And then we'll have a conversation with the rest of the crew.
Hello, everybody. My apologies for being late. I'm so sorry. I had very unexpected car trouble and had to get a part replaced today or else. Quick introduction on me. My name is Taylor Henderson. I'm coming to you from Gubby Gubby country, which is a beautiful day outside. My background is in human rights law, but at the moment I'm actually working on digital policy. So I'm doing some really exciting work with the World Health Organization on youth and misinformation. We just did a giant sort of survey on that, which was really exciting. I'm also working with a group called the Global Risk Journalism Hub, which includes sort of scholars and journalists from over 80 countries. And as part of that, I'm running their student program. So that's the only sort of real experience I have in this kind of thing, but it's been so inspiring to meet with like-minded people and work with people from different experiences, which I guess leads me to what I'm hoping to see more of next year. That being that we have learned through this pandemic that education can happen anywhere. Communicating with people from across the world is the best way that we can sort of approach these big global issues, because there are very few that are now, within national boundaries or community boundaries. And I think also we've been shown that we do have, some issues obviously, but we do have the technologies to make that possible. And so that's, I guess, why I'm so excited to be part of this.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I remember we've had a few email exchanges, Taylor, and you're at the University of Melbourne wanting to lead change there as a student organizer. So stoked to have you join us. And coming back to this idea of change that I was speaking about and the kids were singing about, Kath, tell us, how can change occur? Who's capable of change? Am I too small to create change?
Pearl, it's a great question. I think the way I would tackle that is we have to have a better sense of shared awareness. Now remember, preparedness is my business and education is my business, but a shared understanding, no matter what language you speak, no matter where you are juxtaposed in the world, if there is an issue, something occurs, that everybody knows what to do immediately. And I learned that many, many years ago, and I learned it in the country of Israel, actually. And this is when suicide bombers wore their devices above their waist. And if there was someone that saw suspicious behavior, they let out a particular kind of whistle, and everybody would drop to the ground. There would be no discussion. There would be no communication. Everyone would drop to the ground. It was a shared awareness and understanding. And if we can bring that kind of thinking into, if you see something that's wrong, there are no strangers in life. One other construct I learned that I teach with a lot is, if you can't be present and absent. And I learned that interestingly from the Native American community, where they said they were present in numbers, but absent in access to things that others take for, granted. Education, access to clean water, access to technology, access to transportation, and those kinds of things. So you have to be present at all times, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure that's true. Not just that we have numbers of people that congregate, but they have equal access and equal voice. So I spend a lot of my time trying to give a voice to the voiceless.
Mm-hmm. Equal access, that's such a big concept, Kath. And how did we end up here in the first place? How did the world turn out to be the way it's turned out to be? And whether we as individuals, as small little specks of the universe, have some power within us to shift things. Is it through art? Is it through, how do we do that? Caitlin, I see some beautiful artwork behind you. I'll throw to you next. How do we shift things in the world? And should we shift things?
Yeah, I like to point about why are things the way they are and what can we implement for change? How do we actually go about that? And I'm thinking on a very grassroots level here, not so much global, but I think here with Indigenous communities and countries, they've had their culture and their country and their kinship taken away from them over and over and over again, and it's still happening today. And we need to be not just shifting our like Western ways of doing things, but we need to be giving self-determination and implementing strength through country and culture for Indigenous kids. So that's how I see change happening within my own community. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a loaded, complex area, like what you spoke about, Kath, with the Native American community, what we're seeing with the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander communities here, and how disadvantage has been forced upon. But when you look at the bigger history, when you look at the 60,000 plus years of resilience that underpins the culture here, you see genius. You see Bruce Pascoe's book, Dark Emu, which is sitting on my shelf there, speaks of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people farming, like way back in the day when farming was not even a concept. It was for them, but we had never learned as modern humans. And yeah, so the whole history needs to be retaught, relearned. We've got to start looking at people not as a problem, not as disadvantage, but flip that script and say, hey, you're the leader. You show us how it's done. You show us how to create change. And I think that's what you're trying to do, Emerald, with your work with getting people to eat together and somehow shift perceptions. What's going on there? Tell us how you change things over food.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot. It's hard, but it's simple. And I think that what you guys are doing at Imagination University is a good example. Just giving people an opportunity to share their story, to speak. You know, what we do by doing those dinners over, or having these conversations over dinner, is it levels the playing field. And it takes away the power dynamic that usually exists, especially, you know, where I live, and allows people that usually wouldn't have a voice to have a voice. And so I think that that's the best place to start. I think a lot of times the people who are dealing with the problems are the people that have the solutions. So all of those things take place in the spaces that we just allow. It's not even that we create it. I think the people create the space when they come together, but just to allow people to be heard and to be in a space where they won't be penalized for expressing how they feel or what views they're hearing.
Yeah, spot on, Emerald. I think that's the work of us as the human race, if I can extend it to all of us, saying our job is to set the platform, and then let's see what happens. Let's have these complex conversations emerge naturally through the ranks. Let people go for it. Let the voices that are not being heard be heard. And I don't know if you're still on the line, Tree. I see your video is dropped off, but I'd love to hear from you, Tree, as someone who possibly does not have her voice heard a lot. But then, yeah, I was lucky to hear your voice when you joined us here, and I loved it. So I'd love to hear from you. If you're still on the line, over to you. All right, looks like we might have dropped you. If you drop back in, I'll bring you into the conversation. But Taylor, tell us, what does change mean for you? How do we create change? And do you think as a small person, as a unique individual, you can impact the world? Is it too much?
Absolutely, I think that individuals can change the world, and I think, ironically, that happens as the beginning of a collective movement. You know, we've seen some incredible social justice movements throughout history. Most recent, you know, in the coming couple of last months, it is absolutely possible. I think that one of the most important aspects of that though is networking and is mutual support. So it is making sure that if somebody is, you know, brave enough to sort of raise an issue, that they are then connected with the necessary not only support networks, but perhaps people that were feeling the same way and we get to say it. And that's how we sort of, we raise these things.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the idea of social movements and how they start, because one of the videos I was watching on it, like there's this one dude somewhere in the middle of a party, he starts doing this weird dance. And initially it's weird. It's like, who does that? But then the next person looks at it and goes, oh, I think that's cool. I'm going to start doing the same thing. And before you know it, you have a movement. So I think at first, even if it seems like it's the most absurd thing to do, we've got to stand up and do it ourselves. And you lead by that example, and then things start shifting. I've just gotten a text saying Tree might be able to speak, but her video might be off. If we can hear you, Tree, go for it. I'd love to hear from you. That is a silent no. Technology, isn't that a beast? Anyhow, coming back to the panel, I'd love to hear, we're at the end of our time, we've gone way over time and I can speak to all of you for days, but I'd love to hear in a sentence or two or 6 words. Let's go sentence or two. What is your parting message for the world? Think that the world is ending today. What would you want the posterity, the next generation, if there's going to be one, to hear? Let's start with you, Emerald. You might be on mute, Emerald, but.
Oh, I say great. So I would say that there is power within every individual. There are unique gifts, talents, and treasures within you know, within each person, and to be introspective, to dig on the inside and find those things, and to be courageous enough to present them to the world, no matter how strange it may seem, or how you know, difficult even it may seem. So I don't know, it was more than 2 sentences, but that's what I got.
I got it. That's courage. That's courage shining through. That's beautiful. Kath.
I think in a few sentences, to understand that we have a shared sense of responsibility. We inherited it, whether we know it or not, and we need to pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah, that's so profound. Like, you have to accept what you're given, the hand you're dealt, and then also look. And I think we had Daisy Jeffrey in one of the previous episodes, who's a young climate activist, and she said, you don't inherit the world from the past generation, you borrow it from the future ones. And that sort of stuck with me really deeply. It's like, yeah, we're leaving things behind for the next one. So, Caitlin, what's your passing message to posterity?
I think it would probably something along the lines of, as a people together, you can really do anything. And like, I think we have forgotten that we are all connected, and there is a massive disconnect between everyone in the world. And that doesn't mean that that's true.
Yeah, so many things are taught to us that may be false. And unless we question that assumption, unless we challenge that belief, we never get to know what is really true for us. Taylor, your parting message to humanity.
Kind of an expansion of everybody else's points, but I think we need to realize that having a human experience is a gift, and it comes with so many different diversities that should be celebrated and recognized.
Yeah, isn't that the joy? Like, all of us complex beings in different parts of the world, like little atoms buzzing around in this vast universe. And somehow there's some form of connections forging. Even in this call, like, there's such beautiful people that I get to hang out with and hear stories from. And yeah, that's the idea why we designed Imagination University in the first place. And that's why we said, let's bring people together, people that want to stand up for change. And let's see, once we put them together, what can happen, what might lead, what change can we create? And I think Tree's just come back online, possibly. Let's try one more time, Tree. What is your parting message for the next generation? Think that the world is ending. If you had one thing you could leave with the world in a sentence or two, what would that be?
If it were ending?
If the world were ending and you had like one message to leave.
Love each other more and accept each other more than, like, because you can't change people from being who they're going to be either way, right? So you just love them how they are and accept them how they are, you know, and help them accept each other and help them accept themselves, because a lot of people don't accept themselves. And that's the first step, really, because a lot of people are looking for other people to accept them, and you should just accept yourself first. And that way, even if someone else didn't accept you, then it wouldn't matter as much because you've already accepted that you are who you are.
That's so profound. That's so profound, Tree. And if we can all somehow find a way of like wholly accepting ourselves, wholly accepting the other where they're at, to your point, Caitlin, yeah, we're not this whole divided race of humans. We are, like, let's acknowledge the difference, but let's also acknowledge the oneness that dwells within us all, the essence of who we are. And in India, where I come from, we speak of like waves and bubbles and froth and foam and all different forms of water still being water. The river is still the ocean. The raindrop is still the ocean. So how do we realize our inherent oneness while acknowledging the huge diversity that we see in front of us? And how do we connect as humans to humans? So thank you all for joining us. I could speak to you for days, and this thing can just keep rolling on and on and on, but it's been a joy having all of you with us, all good humans from different parts of the world. And we will wrap this up as the final episode of Imagination TV for 2020. And in the next year, we hope to be live with Imagination University. We're working really hard behind the scenes to make that happen and land at your doorstep so that we can have these conversations throughout 2021, and we can have all of you humans everywhere acting as change agents, as being those multipliers for others around you. And hopefully we can have a shot at creating a fairer world together. So here's to the collective. Have a good rest of the year and have a lovely Christmas break, New Year, enter the 2021 with joy. May you all be well, and let's throw to the credits. Off we go.
You too.